I wonder if you guys got my email yesterday? A reminder?
Yeah.
Well,
Three. Are you doing roll call too, Steve?
sure. Mr. Larson, Mrs. Robertson, Mr. Bushman. Here. Mr. Dayton Flake.
Here.
Mr. Carson Flake.
I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, that brings us to allegiance.
I will.
Okay. Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now volunteer for the invocation.
I can say it.
And
Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity we have to meet together and discuss the issues of Joseph City Schools. We thank you for this great country we live in and the friends and the blessings we have. We ask you at this time to please help us and clear our minds and help us to determine what would be best for this community and the school district. We can help them to improve and to be better. Please bless all those who are fighting for our freedom and standing up for what they believe in. And we say these things in the name of Christ. Amen.
thank you, Andrew. That brings us to the adoption of the agenda. I'll make a motion that we adopt the agenda as listed.
I'll second that.
Any discussion, anyone want to move anything around? Okay, call for the vote. Myself, yes. Carson?
Yes.
Dayton?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
All right. Since I did the minutes last time, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the January 11th, 2022 regular board meeting.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on that one? Okay, call for vote. Carson?
Yes.
Dayton?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes, sir.
And myself, yes. And that brings us to Mr. Fields. The floor is yours for the superintendent's report.
Okay, I'm looking at, that's the minutes from last. Thank you very much, Mr. Larson. And yeah, you should have a written report from me. And part of my report, they sent some of the NAVIC calendars for next year and the subsequent year. So, and that is also the MPC calendar. So I thought you guys might want to have those access to those so you can see. One of the big stipulations they have is that we try and match we're going to belong in these programs like concurrent enrollment, NAVIT, that we try and match their spring break so those kids get a break. But anyway, there's a financial summary report and then some big things happening around the state. One thing I got to bring your attention to is this, what they're calling the aggregate expenditure limit. Now, I mentioned it last month, but it wasn't quite as urgent. So if that doesn't pass or they come up with a resolution by March 1st, it could have budgetary implications immediately. For our district, it could mean upwards of $820,000 of a cut from March to June. And I can explain that if what the cause of that is, if you like, but really, I just don't know if it's going to be resolved by March or not. It's part of a political conversation that they're having down there with that Proposition 206, which was a tax on higher income for schools. So that's a problem. Our plan would be, I really hope they come up with the resolution. Our plan at this point, that's a lot of money for us to try and, we can try and continue to operate with some ESSER funds and some other reserves that we have, but we'll have to start cutting our spending where we can and other cuts immediately to keep the school operating. I saw an article where one district said, well, they were just going to spend next year's money, start budgeting out of next year's funds. And I guess that's an option, but that doesn't sound like a good option to me to start. I don't think you guys would like that either. But basically that's what I'm thinking at this point if that happens. So I don't know if you guys have any questions on that update or comments. It's not good news, sorry. I'm optimistic still. There's a lot of people petitioning the politicians, getting a lot of media. Some school boards are writing letters. I can draft a letter and we can send it down as a governing board if you guys would like. I don't know how much we really want to get involved with all that without knowing. If you don't know all the details, you got to be careful what you say because it can offend whatever they're trying to do. But anyway, let me know on that if there's any questions or anything. Most of my report is self-explanatory. I don't want to berate any one issue here, but I could talk about any or all of them. One that might be of interest to some of you guys too is the water shares. We partner with some community members to lease out these water shares. That lease was up, so we're going to redo that again. I sent out a letter seeing who currently had them and wanted to keep them. And unless the board would like to do something else, I would like to keep the rate the same. It covers the assessment fee and then a little bit of profit for the district.
Did the share price go up?
They haven't come
They won't
out.
know that until next month sometime.
I think we should wait. And if it's going to be the same, make sure that our price is the same. If it goes up, then I think we need to adjust.
Just put you
Compensate
can
for it.
adjust it according to the irrigation company adjustment.
Yeah.
If it goes up $5, it goes up $5.
I think it was $23 last year.
Something like that.
So we make enough. Right now, we're charging per year per share. It's $45. So charging twice what the assessment fee was. But anyway, we can keep it up. And there was some people that actually questioned that, like, why are you guys charging us more than this? Like, I thought, I felt like we could make a little money on because it's an asset.
Other people will charge $90 to $100 for a chair.
So yeah, so
If they're renting them out. So I don't see why.
yeah, I didn't necessarily, and we got rid of them all. So they're all leased to employees, or there were some left over that one gentleman took. But anyway.
With that, do we have some new staff that might be interested?
Yeah.
And to make it fair, do we need to?
When I find out, I'll put out a
Address
mass
that.
email and see who else wants.
Because if we are prioritizing staff, we should keep doing that.
It would, yeah, I hear you, and I'll take care of it. But just for the record, I'm sure those of you that know water shares would know it'd be highly unlikely that a
Nobody ever
new
gets them.
teacher would be able to use it, especially like 1 or 2 shares too, because you could get called in the middle. It just
That is true, but I'm just saying if we have to keep it fair, we should do that also. But
If people started reading the thing, you'd have to go to a sealed bid kind of deal on it.
yeah.
Because there's no way to really,
mhm.
but if no one's complaining, you got plenty of other issues to fight about.
Originally we did a sealed bid, I think, on that.
I think if I recall, we like it was like a kind of lottery sort of thing, and then I think like we didn't have enough
Right, there were
people to even take up what we had, and so everybody who applied got one at one point.
I think that program's going okay. I haven't. The only thing I had heard a couple years ago was that the fee was a little high, but
Having a hard time getting them rented out, I guarantee you.
okay. Like I said, there's several other items on here, and if you'll bear with me, I would like to point out a few for the record here. The elementary school playground equipment. If you saw that number, $141,000, from this is a top-notch company that's on the purchasing co-op. We wouldn't have to get bids if we didn't want to, but that's such a high amount. Mr. Mosier wants to look at some other companies and see if they can come anywhere close to, beating them or matching them, and what we would get for that. And that would be another purchase right there. If this legislative thing doesn't get settled, I'll be putting that, as you know. So I did want to point that out. And same thing with later on my report, I talk about the bleachers in the gym. That could be a $200,000 thing just for the high school. Not to mention the outdoor bleachers or that's another one that if this thing doesn't get resolved by March 1st, I don't think we're going to be moving forward with that at all. I did want to point out our district spelling bee winners. We put them on Facebook, but I'll read their names off here. We had Destiny Stonecalf, Trenton Deep, and Zira Scobie and Caden Humes. And they're going to be, Mr. Mosier did a good job putting that program on. Kids, I stayed for the first couple of rounds. They did good. And they're going to the county now. What day is that? 16. I think are you taking them personally? So that's good. It's good to put some emphasis on some academic competition sometimes. And this is one opportunity. Maybe we'll do a geography bee one of these days if we get ambitious enough, like that. State capital. Yeah.
Maricopa.
The junior high had a strong showing this year, so Mr. Mosier's got to get these elementary kids more practice. Usually junior high kids might be too cool to spell, right? They some intensity. They did that inspection for the HVAC system and maybe converting over to smaller split units or whatever, but I haven't got the report yet, but they did come and do that. So I'm expecting the written report anytime now. You can see those Chromebooks that Mr. Mosier went and picked up for us. Appreciate that. I'm not skipping over anything important there. A couple things I might defer to Steve here if you have some questions, but the FirstNet, have you guys heard anything about FirstNet? It's an internet service just for schools and emergency services.
It's a cellular network.
Yeah, cellular, not internet.
Well, both.
Could be both.
Yeah.
So and the sheriff's department was the first to put me onto it, but we have a vendor, AT&T, talking to us now, talking to Jason and Steve and myself about it. Like we could have these separate phones or walkie-talkies on every bus and track them. The buses, we could know, like if they're on a trip and parents are wondering where they're at, it could be, potentially if we buy that. And it's no matter where they're at, they would have service. Is what we think because it's top notch and it's less expensive. We could have separate unit instead of walkie-talkies at the duty when they do it at lunch duty or recess duty, these things. And that way it would be one touch to emergency response too, right? So I'm talking more about it when Steve's probably more educated on it. Steve, do you want to say anything else about FirstNet?
Well, yeah, there's kind of two components to it. One is some state legislature appropriations for our county was selected. I think there's 3 or 4 counties in the state, and then they selected
That's mutual touch.
Well, yeah, but they're kind of linked, and so what that is funding the county to be able to and this is mainly for like communities like Joe City or Heber that don't have their own police services. That's who they're targeting first. And so what it does is it integrates the different emergency services in a way that so for example, if we call in with an emergency at the county level, they're all linked together. They don't have to get on different radio systems. If they would know instantly. The nearest officer happens. I've used this example before. Happens to be a highway patrolman who's having lunch at Esther's, as opposed to the the county sheriff that's 20 miles away. And so they can immediately dispatch and connect and get them here. We can have equipment at our end so that if they wanted to look at a camera and watch something going on, they could do that. So it's where they want to bring in Joseph City Schools and about 4 other school districts in the county is to be able to install some equipment at our end where we can make those calls with one touch, with a device or whatever.
These aren't mutually exclusive. I'm sorry to interrupt, but like, and they're both, there's not really a downside to either one, but he's talking mostly that mutual touch. And so we could do that one. That's definitely a no-brainer, ties us to everything.
Yeah.
Not really a downside as part of a grant, but the first network is separate, but it would give us better coverage and less expensive. And we can
Right.
use it for duty and other.
Yeah, and what they've done is there's some federal funding that AT&T won the bid, and so they put in more towers, so you have not only better coverage, but in an emergency you're not competing with the
Right,
public,
that's a big deal.
you know, for that cell signal. So those are the two big things.
That was a big part of that. They're both, they're not really a downside, but I can be a little cost to it, but for the service you get, and it'll be savings to us along that. So it's not really. I think those are good programs that Jason and Steve are working on. And its rates are picking up a little bit. We do have some staffing issues still that have been affected by COVID. So, but I can't go into detail about that. We're managing. So I can answer any questions or elaborate more if you'd like on anything.
Questions? Thanks, Mr. Fields. Is there anybody signed up for comment?
Unless you did when you came.
Except for Dara?
I think I had a full staff
Yeah.
the first time.
So,
Yeah, today.
wow. Different bus.
First time in my career.
All right, so that brings us to consent agenda. I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items as listed. With the note that Rhonda Robertson has consented to be the board clerk, serving as board clerk. We appreciate that. That's part of the consent agenda. Second.
I'll second.
Any discussion needed? Okay, call for the vote. Dayton?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Karsten?
Yes.
Brings us to one request. So 5A, we're looking at personnel request 5A. I'll make a motion that we approve the employee assignments and employee renewals, volunteers, and employee resignations as listed.
I'll second.
Discussion needed there.
I have a question. Sure. I don't see a high school assistant track coach.
He just walked in.
Yeah, maybe it might be. So that's a good observation. So what happened here is we had a resignation that just hit last week. They were waiting to see, you know, for health reasons, and then they found a replacement head coach, and they were working on the assistant, but they hadn't. He's here now; he could address it, but they hadn't confirmed officially by the time I had to set the agenda. Yeah. So is that where we're at with the?
That's correct. The assistant, prospective assistant coach hasn't let me know yay or nay yet.
Okay. I was curious if we had an assistant coach already set up.
Yeah, it was Coach Smith. It was just
Okay.
She'll be the head now.
Okay.
Any other questions?
What I see under volunteers, some at the elementary, or at the elementary, the high school, what are these that are just at the schools? What kind of things will they be doing?
Another good question, and I'll try and take that, and if I don't do adequate, I'll let Mr. Hutchins take a stab at it. I'd like to clean this up so you don't get repeat people every month. Like, yeah, you probably recognize some of the names that have been, like, one time they'll be approved as a junior high softball volunteer, and then the next month they'll be on as high. So we would like to maybe just put them on as athletic volunteers, and then the principal and AD will handle them if there's a problem and say, look, you can't, we don't want you helping with this sport because the coach didn't along with it, or whatever the case would be. So that's part of what the inconsistency. But on these specific volunteers, the first one is going to be more academic because it's at the elementary, so it's helping. And Mr. Mosier can, that's what I was sent just the elementary volunteer. But will you tell us a little bit about what she's going to be doing?
It's 1 day a week, for an hour or two. Work with them in classrooms, reading with kids.
I was just questioning because I haven't at least recalled seeing elementary, junior high, high school. I was just trying to figure, but that does make sense, and I think that's a good idea to make it a little bit more broad, used as needed type of thing. That's a good. I can understand that.
No, you have every right to ask. That was good.
They request that position usually.
Yeah.
Or they want to work.
And because they're volunteers, there's no exchange of money. Is that correct?
Correct. Just don't tell them that. They don't know.
They might as well find out now.
They know that.
The second one now, that one is more of an athletic one, specifically some junior high basketball. So, but I changed that listing just in case he wanted to help out with any other programs. It's a gentleman that's, you all know, it's been here a long time. The next one is a parent who was actually previously a junior high volunteer. They're different seasons, but I think we can just call them softball volunteer or athletic volunteer and keep it out. The next one was that's an athletic, that was track. April,
You just want to help out.
basketball. And Aaron, I put spring sports, but he actually is specifically track, if I remember right. So that should take you through.
Okay.
But I'm going to try and get it a little more consistent and just keep it more general.
I do think it's smart though to have that principal and the athletic director involved in that too, just because they want to and they show up, and there could be some hardship there if so. That I like what you said. They need to be looked at if they're some help isn't help.
Yeah. Right.
That's all I have.
Okay, anything else? All right, call for that. You come at me. So I'll say yes, Karsten?
Yes.
Dayton?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Brings us to 5B, personnel appointments. I'll make a motion that we approve the personnel appointments as listed.
I'll second.
Questions on this one? Discussion needed? Okay, call for vote. Karsten?
Yes.
Dayton?
Yes.
Andrew? Myself, yes. Brings us down to action item 6A. I'll make a motion that we approve an increase in the hourly rate for the project coordinator of the Parents Commission on Substance Prevention.
I'll second.
I don't know if you have any questions or want me to say anything on it, just let me know.
Just a reminder, this is all paid out of a grant at this point, correct?
Yes. And not very many hours, it fluctuates. And this grant specifically, this grant ends June 30th.
And so all these positions will die with it unless it gets renewed. What's the chances of it being an ongoing thing?
Well, yeah, they if we are interested, I actually hesitated this last time to get it renewed because it's a lot of money. I will say that. And one thing we're doing with this, it could have been a part of my report, and I neglected to say this, was this elementary drama, after school drama practice and the phenomenal performance. A lot of kids participating, but the people we're hiring to do that need to make sure the focus of that is substance prevention, because that's the goal of this grant. So that's the risk we run, because if somebody comes back and they do audit these, say, wait, this wasn't a fit. What do where's the evidence that you did this and that? This would come out of our regular budget. So I have to really watch this, and it's kind of taxing and can be a risk that I don't like, quite frankly. Who would have thought elementary drama and substance? I mean, and I'm all for making the connection, and it does keep the kids. They got 50 kids involved. They're loving it, I think.
So the soccer thing was through this same thing, and it had a lot of participation.
Yeah, at some point.
So I see a lot of potential, but if there are, and yeah, there's risks too, something to look at.
A lot of surveys are supposed to go with this, and I'm not seeing those, but it's my understanding that they're not going to enforce the survey requirement. That's what, Linda had told me. So, but now it's a new person. So
Why the pay increase?
So some of the people that are supervising were actually, or not, it's not really, it's overseen. Like the teachers for that family class were making more. So the person resigning recommended that we maybe give that a bump, first to get people interested to apply, but also it's just a good practice not to have the people being, with the oversight making more than that.
That makes.
Yeah.
I was just curious if there was.
That's a good question. So that's, I don't know if that clears up anything else.
All right, sounds good. Call for vote, Dayton?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Carter?
Yes.
All right, that brings us to 6B. Make a motion that we approve a junior high school astronomy club.
I'll second it.
Questions or discussions on that?
Kind of exciting.
Is that much interest? I mean, I know that I have different interests than a lot of people, and I just look at something like this, like, wow.
Evidently, sometimes these clubs, just to be totally transparent, are driven by the interest of staff too. I mean, make no mistake. We had a ski club, and it kind of died out after our staff member, who was an expert skier, left. Mr. Moser was just telling me today, hopefully he doesn't mind, at his high school they had a water skiing club. It was probably driven by a staff member who was,
Well,
But they had a lake.
Lake Powell.
It's not there anymore.
yeah. So
We have wind selling.
Both the teachers.
I did ask for how many kids were signed up, and it wasn't part of the informational sheet that I was given. So I apologize for that, but unless Mr. Hutchins knows, I would say half a dozen kids. Probably a lot say they're interested, but how many will go to the night meeting? You got to go at night, of course, with the telescopes.
I don't know if it's Mr. Miller.
No, he didn't. They had a meeting, but he didn't put out an information sheet with, the kids and the potential sponsors.
I mean, I think if someone's interested in that, it's just as good as doing a soccer game or whatever with the youth and families, whatever else. I mean, it works for a couple kids, it works. I ain't going.
And if there's not the kid involvement, sure.
We've had several clubs that we've had for a while, and they've disappeared.
The waves of life.
Yeah. I don't know what our list of clubs are, and how many of them are actually active, I don't know.
If they have an account, we have to keep it upgraded. So there is a list that he keeps updated, cause you gotta close those accounts if they had any money.
Seems like we added a chess club last
Yeah,
year.
and that's actually one of his right here. So are they still doing chess?
No.
So you're right, your observation's right on, it goes,
I mean, I can remember all kinds of clubs that we've approved over the last several years, but I don't remember any of them officially saying things done, so, I don't know.
Well, I don't think you have to officially
I don't think.
say
we
you're
do,
done.
But I don't know, it's curious.
some of them are definitely inactive. If they've been inactive for, I'd say, a certain amount of time, we should have to bring them back to you guys, if that's the concern. So like if they've been inactive for a year or two, I think it would make sense, bring them back to get, if we cleared out their account.
But yeah, and we generally just leave the money in there for several years, and just in the event that they do decide to become active again. But at some point when the principal decides no, it's probably never going to happen, then that money reverts to student council, and then they can distribute it however they choose.
Let's call for the vote. Andrew?
Sure.
Myself, yes. Carson?
Yes.
Steve? Yes. All right, that brings us to C. I'll make a motion that we approve the rental of facilities by Clean Creek Side School District and Mountain View High School for the purpose of having summer football camp.
I'll second that.
So this year, even though they're still 2 teams, there'd just be 1 week.
Well, no, it would be 2 weeks, 1 week for Queen Creek and 1 week for Mountain View.
On the calendar, you've set, not to have this discussion in front of them, but you only have 1 week.
That's because I haven't got Mountain View confirmed yet on the date. But
The dates right now is July 18th through the 23rd.
right, and then
1 week was.
and the date I'm presenting to Mountain View is the week prior to that, so we have a continuous 2 week stretch there. Just haven't got it all the details worked out yet, but and then Queen Creek is looking to bring another high school along with them that same week. So
They want both camps.
yeah, so it may be more than just Queen Creek High School.
But our agreement is just with them. They will work it out with Queen Creek.
Correct.
So there, we got some clarification for you guys right on the spot. I don't know if we attach this. Okay.
No.
If you have questions on like what we made and what is involved, I can talk a little bit about that now.
Any questions?
I guess I have a comment more than a question,
Okay.
just because I had an issue last year, and Mr. Fields and Mr. Hutchins are both aware of it. These guys tend to, on occasion, take up the entire street as they walk from the high school to here and vice versa, and makes it, those of us that live on that street, darn near impossible to get home or get out of your house. So if we can maybe address that from the start, that be courteous, that even if it is a small town, it's still a town and people do drive.
That's a good idea.
Drive a little faster. They'll get the hint. After 1 or 2 gets taken out, they'll move.
Usually the coaches are fairly good at working with it. And
Yeah.
if you
I
have
think
to do
somebody
that-
talked to Coach last year. I don't know if it was you or Eric or, I always hesitate because these football coaches can overreact sometimes, no offense.
Yeah, there was.
And like,
No, there was one year where some kids got in trouble. They had to push the school van up and down the, what is that? What is
See, that's a little-
It's random, yeah.
but if in front of it would be the best time, like you said. So we don't have a coordinator, like a manager of this, other than our regular administrative team. We might.
You have terms and agreement that kind of
Yeah.
go with it, and just
Yeah, and we communicate with them every day, and anytime there's an issue or a problem, they're very anxious to work with us to resolve it. So,
What kind of things are we using money for to make it up?
You want me to?
you want?
The food service is where a lot of it currently goes. So we make, if I had to give you just a rough estimate now, but, over 13,000, maybe $13,500. That does not include like utility expenses and some of those things, concessions. Like we pay somebody to help us with concessions. And
Right,
that's not-
concessions aren't included in that because that's student money and I didn't
What are we
include that.
talking the net is? Not
Pardon?
Well,
the net.
my guess.
Yeah.
And, or a little.
What net after what?
After all of our
Utilities.
expenses.
Oh, I don't even know on utilities. We've never tried to estimate that, but
So are we
That's
just
why I
doing
tried.
this to pay for food service?
food.
It,
Well, it means that we don't have to pay out, we don't have to cover it now, any deficits, those deficits
fundraising
out of
too.
M&O.
I mean,
And then
So why do we do
fundraising for
it?
the students.
You want me to answer that in short? It helps cover our food costs during the school year. It gives some work to employees, temp work. It gives students a chance to fundraise from without hitting the community up. And occasionally it gives our players some time to get trained by, these experts or whatever. The Queen Creek coach, I think he's still there, was a Rose Bowl MVP or something like that. That's Joe Germain. But anyway, now there's downsides, I can tell you too. I'm not trying to be one-sided about it at all. Some employees don't like the mess. We have the things like interactions we got to watch with, they're all boys usually. So, keeping the boys and girls separated. Mr. Hutchins managed it last year for us, and he could give you a lot of insight about stuff, probably good and bad about it.
Got any insight?
Yeah, I got lots of them.
Great.
But I
You're on
want
camera.
to say that I didn't have any negative interactions with any of the coaches. Even the situation took place that, coaches were, and even most of the boys were pretty courteous and good and stuff. So, I mean, it does, my advice, Mr. Miller, was if I told him I wasn't really interested in watching it again this year, but you do need to have someone there. Me being there, help protect our facilities on a couple of events. I'm not talking about banners, I'm just talking about that the one night it was raining, coach is gonna go practice on our main field in that rain, and if you were back that far out, vividly, I told him, no, you're not. You go practice on a baseball field or softball field, it's not getting on my game field, and it's softly wet out there.
Lightning concerns too.
Yeah,
with
he
it.
would have, if I hadn't been there. But really, other than that, most things were positive. Workers were there for the concession stand, the cafeteria staff, and those people doing the meals were good. The boys, for the most part, were well behaved. I mean, I didn't, except for the one from Mr. Flake, that's the only one I was really aware of. And most of them, I think, treated our facilities very good. I wasn't aware of much, if any, damage. That was done a little to the main football field, but once that, we know that we're aware that was happening, we shut that down. And, so just was more than happy to do what we need to do with that. So that's kind of, I mean, I don't, really.
So just one other question then. So if we're using it to offset costs for food services, and we don't have to offset costs for food services right now because the COVID thing is all getting paid for.
Well, then when all's said and done, we look at, if we have a big carryover to next year out of food service, then probably what we, end up doing is, we can do some things like charging indirect cost rate back and take money out of food service, put it back in M&O and use it for other things. So you kind of have to look at it over, the course of
Food service
several years.
still cost us, was it upwards, it was like 30-some thousand, even with all the free like everyone's getting,
Yeah, right now, we're in the black. But like I said, I mean, it's money that can be, at some point in time moved around for other purposes once we've covered our, any kind of deficit or cost in food service. So, yeah, I mean, it all benefits the district. It all benefits kids eventually.
Want to make sure it doesn't our kids.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and just to be clear, when we say food service, we're not talking the management company. We're talking Joseph City School District. It does that money.
yeah, because it didn't, we were talking today, it doesn't cost us, I mean, they make money.
Right.
Because these are students.
Yeah, and the contractor doesn't make more money by running this catering. It's a district that makes the money.
Just their workers, their hourly rate and the food costs, yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes there's questions about that. So.
The money goes to the district. Typically, it was going to an opportunity to help offset the food expense. It could offset anything in our budget that the board would like. Just a matter of shuffling it around. It's nice cash, but there are some people that don't like this. I'm not going to sit here because everyone loves it.
It was mentioned that as a negative, some of the staff doesn't like it. I'm guessing because it's a ton of hours or whatever.
They would
are we
anyway?
Are we doing
it's easier?
Maybe something? And I'm not saying we should or shouldn't or whatever, but is there a way maybe to compensate for that only to get is there a way something we can look at to maybe make it more fair, more pleasing for them?
I should probably qualify what I said a little bit better. I haven't taken any complaints directly from anyone, and just so everyone knows, like when this camp is going on, there's more students on campus than the regular school year.
Mm-hmm.
So the summer is usually a little more lax. So I think that's what that comes from. So like custodians will be working anyway, but doing deep cleaning. In this case, they might have somebody throwing up or trash. They got to go pick up now because there's like we had 200-300 kids at the one campus. That's more than we have.
But I'm sure it's also a positive in that some of those people wouldn't be getting any hours if we didn't have it, and so they are getting some hours to help support themselves. So I definitely see that. I'm just saying if there are those that want less, can we?
We don't like force anybody to work.
Okay.
When they don't want to for that. And where I haven't really heard complaints. I think the grumbling might come from, we have to work around these guys and we have to compress our schedule over here and kind of rework our schedule. It's not that, we can't, it's not anything really big or serious.
And I understand that. And I'm not saying there is issues, but when we get to, if there is, then it's kind of, I agree, it should be hey, this is an opportunity to make some more money.
Most of the people that I think, there's probably very few that are. Sherry has a good system because she's done it for many years. Most of her custodians, except for maybe one or people she already has on her staff that are there. One of them is a sub that works a big bit outside. Some extra time has to be put in on maintenance, of course, because they got to get the fields, but some of the fields that are painted, you paint the baseball field, junior high is going to be using it in a couple of weeks anyway. You paint the practice field, our football team is going to be using it in 2 weeks anyway. So some of those things, you do have to change the high school field, because it's different from 11 and 16. But some of those things are a little extra. But my knowledge, I'm not aware of people that are having to work 70 hours that week versus they don't want to work 40 because they don't want to be there.
Well, if we're having to pay a bunch of overtime, it's not very cost effective anyway.
Right, and we don't do that, but and we do just to give you another point of view here is we have a custodian that we kind of put over that event, and she loves it, and she loves working with those boys and those coaches. In fact, she changes she tells her family, we cannot do vacation during these 2 weeks because I want to be there to do the camp. So, I mean, you kind of get both sides.
Power to you.
Yeah.
This upcoming year, I think it's important to note that, like, if we do concessions like we have been, it'll give the kids an opportunity to work and make some money too, right?
Yeah.
Because we're paying kids to work the concessions now, right? So if we continue.
Is there still going to be classes able to do, or teams to do fundraisers during that period of time, or will that take that away?
That's kind of however they all organize it.
Mr. Miller and myself have not even discussed it, so I'll make a note to discuss that.
Yeah, they do like a breakfast. That's how they made some money.
Right now, Mr. Fields, everything is kind of just, the food is all done through the cafeteria. There used to be where, say, whatever club would come and do breakfast that day, and the volleyball club would do lunch, band would do dinner, but it's all handled by SFB.
So yeah, so
Most of the funds this past year were just concessions, softball and every day, volleyball.
so either be fundraising or students getting a job, but probably not a combination.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the between when we say concessions, we're talking the between meals, late night before bed, kind of a,
That was a significant
yeah.
chunk.
That might be
Yeah.
to look at the teams or classes that want to give them an opportunity, and then if they're not filled, then
Yeah, that was the problem. That's why we had to start paying people.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we don't want to mess up the system that they've got going and throw it out for this and bring it back. And because, Mr. Hancock and whatever that business club thing, whatever they call themselves, they've got going, it seems to be pretty good. We don't want to throw them out the pasture and then bring them back.
All right, great.
But if he does have to work more, like Mr. Hancock, or we have to have somebody supervise,
Right,
it needs to be
right.
some kind of a stipend or something to
Right.
make it worth it.
Well, make sure, that's the plan. I think that's good to point out. We don't want to just add to somebody's responsibility and not pay them. So,
Because if they're not full year and Mr. Hutchins has to come check on them for 8 hours a day, it ought to be worth a nickel.
we paid them more than
6
that
cents.
last year.
6 cents.
You got inflation out of him.
I got paid really well at the auditorium, having them in there. I got some nice shirts too.
There you go.
All right, call for the vote myself, yes, Karsten?
Yes.
Dayton?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Great. Okay, are there any discussion items?
Okay. No.
Any requests for future agenda items?
I would, and we've talked about it before, I know. And I think we started talking about it this year, but could we get some numbers for that football camp and see how much is kicking into our food service and stuff like that? I think that might be something that I would like to.
Yeah, we've got that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, I could share it with you after the meeting or whatever.
Yeah, that's fine. I can come in. I was wondering if we might want that as something to look at as an agenda item. But I'm not saying we need to or not. It's just a suggestion. It might be something we want to look at.
Yeah, we got it right there if you want to look at it before you leave.
Okay, how about upcoming meetings? March, second Tuesday in March, 6 o'clock.
That's one good thing about February. March is the same way till the end.
Yeah, the meeting's fine. I did just want to add one more thing after that, so I'll let you, okay, right now. Tomorrow, so you know how there was a community gathering, for like what the impact would be economically on the school if when the power plant leaves. So tomorrow, some APS people are doing a tour of the outside lake facilities out at the power plant at 4 o'clock. There's like a subcommittee that's kind of, I think it's open to anybody. That's why I'm telling you guys, if you know anybody. But one of the subcommittees from that group is like recreation or things like that. And those people are going, I'm going to try and attend. It's at 4:00. You have to drive yourself. You meet at that sign on frontage. It says Cholla Power Plant. And they're going to show the lake facilities.
We got a lock to let you out there.
Okay, yeah. And so I thought it'd be worth, you know, seeing what they're, you know, seeing what it is out there. If you guys would like to attend, feel welcome, or if you know somebody that wants to serve on that committee, feel free to invite them.
Do we have to vote on to approve this? Okay, so next meeting is,
And not unless you change it, because you approved that meeting
all right,
for the whole year. And
we're good. All right, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Carson, Dayton, yes. Andrew? Yes, okay. You got anything to sign? We're adjourned.
Yes.
The board certificate's over here, so we can make it official with the county.